Welcome to the DSO Hygienist Podcast. This podcast is for everyone in the DSO space. Whether you're a hygienist, dentist, assistant, or leader, we're here to bring you expert insights, real-world strategies, and conversations to help you thrive. I'm your host, Christine Deal, and together we'll explore how to elevate patient care, grow professionally, and navigate the ever-evolving world of DSOs. Let's get started. Buying a dental practice? Here's what no one tells you. It's not just about the numbers. It's about the people. And if you lose them, you lose trust, culture, and production. That's where the DSO team transition comes in. We help you stabilize your staff, align systems, and retain your top talent, so your new practice runs smoothly from day one. Smooth transitions, stronger teams, real results. Visit DSOteamtransition.com and download your free transition checklist today. Thomas Passalacqua is a certified executive coach who specializes in customized professional and leadership development. With a master's in education, Thomas started his career as a founding teacher in New York City. He then transitioned into dental manufacturing sales, where he was an award-winning consultant who trained and mentored other sales professionals. Transitioning again, Thomas was the director of business development for a growing dental group practice in the Northeast, where he led sales and marketing for mergers and acquisitions. In his executive coaching and professional training platform, Ascend Professional Pathways LLC, he works with various industry leaders to help them gain clarity and reach the next level in their businesses and careers by overcoming doubts, fears, and uncertainty. Hi, I'd like to welcome Thomas to the show today. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks, Christine. It's great to be here.
I just want to get started with the questions. That's kind of how we roll here. What was your experience with imposter syndrome? I know we all suffer from it, so tell me a little bit about what happened.
Sure. Thanks for asking. That's a loaded question at times, right? And I think the word imposter syndrome, is very relatable, but also could vary depending who you ask. So I think people kind of define imposter syndrome in a variety of different ways, and we all have our unique kind of experience with it. However, for me, it was just navigating, many years of doubting myself and kind of subscribing to ideas that I thought were so out of reach and that I believed were not possible for me to achieve or to pursue. For whatever reason, when I was younger, just kind of grew up with that expectation that, I only have certain skills, certain abilities. I only could do what I can do. And I had a lot of aspirations. I had a lot of drive to do more with myself, but I just believed, for whatever reason, I couldn't. And that only lasted for so long until I hit a breaking point where, just in my professional journeys and my career journey, felt like I wasn't truly fulfilling who I was as a unique individual, and it no longer sat with me. I couldn't deal with it anymore, and I had to pursue something of meaning. And I had a breaking point where I realized, what I was doing wasn't working for me, and I started to feel it. So I said, every time I have a thought or an aspiration, I always come up with an excuse. I always have a reason why I couldn't or shouldn't do something. And that got exhausting. And once I hit that moment, I had to think so logically and so objectively just to completely remove the emotional component of things. And, that was kind of the starting point of where I am today. But yeah, I got in my own way for far too long.
What allowed you to get out of your own way? Like, how did you kind of stop perpetuating that I can't do it kind of attitude?
It was that realization that I was the one who always made an excuse or a reason or tried to find a reason why I couldn't or shouldn't do something. It was thinking logically. It was truly stopping and reflecting. And it wasn't just one moment. This was over the course of time. But thinking back, Why am I not pursuing something? Well, I kept making excuses, or I kept telling myself I couldn't. So it was like identifying the barriers, and it was reflecting and acknowledging the fact that I was the one giving those excuses. There was nobody else I actually had people telling me I could do, what I wanted, and I had good resources and I had the ability to pursue different endeavors. But thinking logically and literally writing it down, saying, okay, I'm in my own way. So that was step number one, is just acknowledging and understanding the fact that I constantly made a reason for why I shouldn't do something. And that was then the starting point of, okay, so if it's me, what do I have to do to get forward and get out of my own way, right? So acknowledging that it was me was kind of step number one. And then the following steps, was a system that I actually created more in reflection of, what allowed me to get unstuck and allowed me to make a couple of steps moving forward and getting out of my own way, and realizing, okay, it wasn't fear, because all of the things I assumed I would be afraid of never really happened. It was that insecurity, I guess. But now that I can do certain things, I proved myself wrong. So it's not insecurity. Is it uncertainty? Well, you just have to close the knowledge gap and learn what you don't learn, right? It seems simple and silly, but it wasn't, uncertainty. And then you realize, I can do all these things. I have the resources. I have the abilities. I accomplished so much already. That other version of me didn't serve a purpose anymore. It wasn't relevant. So it's a slow breaking through of that.
So, what are some common challenges you see when you're working with dental clients?
Yeah, I think the dental industry has kind of a unique relationship with the self-inflicted barriers, whether it's, a practice leader, a clinical, dentist or clinical support team, group practice leaders or staff. I think in any level of the dental industry, some of us are experiencing some sense of self-inflicted barriers, whether it's doubts, fears, uncertainties, inadequacies, insecurities. Um, so a lot of the challenges are really of our own hand. And, it could be in my sense, a career kind of path where you feel you're reserved and you can't progress in your career for whatever reason, or you can't pursue something of meaning. It could be a professional limitation where, oh, I only have these skills. I can't really acquire new ones, or I feel stuck either in my role, my job, or my personal life. I feel stuck. I can't do anything. And it's those beliefs that we tell ourselves, like, oh, I'm there's no options in front of me. Well, that actually couldn't be further from the truth. There are options. It's just you're not allowing yourself to observe them and focus on them. And there's a lot of kind of rear view perspectives where what can help is looking forward, looking at the opportunities that are there, but you might not be seeing them because you're almost blinded by your own barriers that you subscribed on yourself. So I think if you talk to enough people in dental, I think a lot of that is kind of common.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. How do we best navigate the negative or distracting emotions that often creep in when, we want to do something, but we're hesitant or holding back?
For me, in my experience, it was being as objective and logical as possible. The emotional side of things could be a difficult aspect to navigate. So our emotional component, is helpful, but it also hinders us quite a bit. And removing as much emotional influence in our decisions, in our reactions, in our ambitions, it could benefit us. So whenever you have that instant feeling of, oh, this negative feeling that I can't, or, that anxiety there, and I feel like everyone can identify that internal feeling. once that happens, I think it's important to stop and to pause and to reflect. It's like, okay, where is that anxiety coming from? Where's that feeling coming from? Why is it a negative feeling? And asking logical questions, removing the emotional component, and trying to get down to fact, because that's what's going to ground you. And that's what grounded me over the years was, okay, I don't want to make assumptions. I don't want to make guesses. I don't want to base my conduct or my success on feelings. I want to base it on fact, on logic, on an objective reasoning, because that's what's true. And those are things I can manipulate, and those are things I can control. And that gives you resources then to acquire or to shift from and adjust. So when those feelings creep in, I would say pause and reflect and identify what's actually true. And for a lot of clients I work with is asking some simple questions. And, an example is, what is the feeling that I'm actually experiencing at the moment? Where is it coming from? Why do I think it's there? What are the aspects that influence that feeling? What can I do about it? And that what that does is just ground you in the moment and to get you just to truly think instead of react and have that emotion take over, because we will succumb to the emotions because it's strong, right? And I think a lot of us relate to that.
Yeah, I know before I speak, I think of I try to think of like the worst case scenario and then just get it off my head. And somebody told me once, and I thought this was the best advice ever, that it's not about me, it's about the message. So that really helped me take my insecurity and my emotion out of that situation. I focused on what I'm trying to convey, what I'm here to give, instead of it's all about me. I totally understand what you're saying about the emotion, because it's hard in some situations to be logical.
Yes. And it's changing that perspective. And it's applying what's working and getting better at it. It's flexing that muscle. It's building that competency of different reflections, different perspectives, different responses, and seeing what's actually working for you, where you want to go, and breaking free of that emotional hold. So it does take time, but it takes consistency and awareness.
Yeah, I agree. What can we focus on to stay on track? So what should our focus actually be?
The North Star, right? So focus on the goal that you want to accomplish, whether that's a large ambition or a small goal for the day. And any goal will help. It doesn't have to be a large aspiration. It could be a very, very simple goal, because what that does is align you to where you aspire to be. Think of precisely, exactly what you want to accomplish. And that accomplishment can be just a mindset shift or a small behavior shift. And then focus on what's in the way of where I am right now to where I want to be with that goal. What are the obstacles? What are the barriers? What are the hurdles? Then once you get comfortable identifying what's in front of you, the next question is, what are the actions to tackle those obstacles? How do I overcome each of those small hurdles? And if you identify steps that you can take, resources that you can apply, those obstacles start to diminish because they're not as overwhelming anymore. You start to tackle them and chisel away at them, and you realize, oh, I can overcome the challenges in front of me. And then you start to reflect, okay, what's helping? What's not helping? And then you start to focus on forward momentum, and now you're starting to get closer to your goal, and you're realizing what's working, you realize what's not working, you realize that you are capable, and then you have this upward spiral to where positivity and optimism and confidence starts to grow, and those negative emotions start to become more irrelevant. So it's a intricate system. It's simple, but it does take intention and awareness and a lot of self-reflection. And it could be broad and a long timeline, or it can be a short couple of minutes. It could be just a mental process that you walk through as well.
What is the clarity process that you kind of go through, and how can it help us in dental?
Yeah, so the clarity process that I kind of briefly described, I came up with it and wrote it down and refined it in hindsight because it was really the experience that I lived through a couple of years ago of breaking free of that imposter syndrome and of that doubt and that self-inflicted, chains that I buckled around myself. I had to get as objective as possible. So I said, precisely what do I want to achieve? And, professionally, I wanted to pursue a meaningful career with, helping others and being purpose driven and finding true alignment with my core values. So that was the overall goal. But then I had to break that down to, okay, what are the steps for me to get there? And then I wrote out, dozens and dozens of different benchmarks and milestones that I could accomplish in order for me to support that long-term goal. So the process was keeping my eye on that North Star of where I wanted to go, breaking it down into smaller digestible goals and steps to support that, right? Like, what are your short-term actions to support your long-term ambitions? And then realizing, where do I close the knowledge gap? What do I have to accomplish in order to get over those obstacles in front of me? No matter how big those obstacles are, I can chisel away at them. What are the actions, behaviors, mindsets that I have to embody in order to overcome the hurdles in front of me? Then reflecting, okay, what's working? What's getting me closer? What's not? What's keeping me off track? Amplifying what's working, refining what's not. And then you repeat that process every stage, every day, every week, and you are making slow, consistent progress. And in dental, it could mean a lot of different things for a lot of different, dental professionals. But I would encourage us to believe that there are resources and abilities that are already within you. Most of us are just keeping them kind of buried because we're not allowing ourselves to fully flourish. So my main role in the dental industry as an executive coach is helping others peel back those layers, getting unstuck, finding the strategies to move forward, and reinforcing that.
Let's kind of turn towards the dental
Mm-hmm.
team because I'm sure people have questions about that. So, how do you transform a set of goals into real team momentum going forward?
Yeah, so goal setting is something that really intrigues me because at first I think a lot of people can get overwhelmed with like, oh, we have a goal. Okay, well, how do you achieve it? What's the playbook? What's the steps? What are what's the strategy to actually achieve that goal? So in a sense of a dental team and a practice, try to get as tangible as possible. First, does the team even understand why that goal is in place? So part of it is understanding the why. What's the purpose? Why are we doing this? How does it benefit the practice as a whole? How does it benefit each team member? How does it benefit the patients? How does it benefit the profitability of the practice? So understanding the purpose behind the goal you set in the first place. So that would be step one. Two would be breaking that goal down into tangible aspects. What are the behaviors, actions, habits, specific things that each team member is doing that supports that goal? Because if the team is not embodying and conducting their day in support of that goal, then how do you know you can even accomplish that goal? So breaking it down, because that allows you to track, it allows you to measure, and what measures gets managed, right? So you can pivot, you can change, you can adjust, you can amplify based on what's working and what's not. And then tracking it in a way that you're on the right track and you're closing that gap. And within a dental practice, it's how the leaders of the practice are building that into the routines, how often they're discussing it, how closely they're tracking it, what are the metrics that they're using to track it, and having everyone understand what they're doing, how it's helping, where can adjustments be made. So for goal setting, I would say it's a full practice endeavor, not just led by one individual or a team, but the entire practice. And I would ask your true benchmark could be, how are the patients experiencing that goal? And is the patient experience being improved? And then everything else can translate from there.
What are some common mistakes that you see leaders and teams make when they are trying to maybe implement new things?
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind, regardless of what the goal is or routine is giving it the proper amount of time, right? Because you could micromanage the goal, and you could, really build out the routines and the process and the structure and track it and manage it very well. But are you giving it the appropriate amount of time to fully mature? And that's one thing, not just in dental, that I see, is that in this day and age where information is at our fingertips, we can get the answer at whatever point we want. It's not even Googling anymore, it's chat GPTing, right? We are conditioned to expect the answer to whatever question we have. We also expect it immediately. Attention spans are becoming smaller and smaller. Our expectations are becoming greater and greater for the immediate. And a lot of times, both professionally and personally, we might not be giving enough time for the goals or the process to fully mature. And viewing time as a necessary component to our endeavors is something that's difficult to understand and difficult to embrace. And sometimes it just takes a little bit more time. But time is something you can manage, you can observe, you can track. So within a certain time frame, what's the progress you did make? Okay, it's progress nonetheless, right? Can you speed up that time, or are there other aspects that's affecting the speed of your progress? So I would look at time as, one of those metrics to observe. And if you are making progress, then that's great. It might not be in the time that we expect it just because of the condition of the modern world, right? But I would say keeping that in mind is just the time for maturity.
You're so right about that. All of our attention spans are like so small. How would teams build in more accountability to better achieve goals? Like, who's going to be responsible? Who do we count on as being the one that's accountable for our implementing goals?
Yeah, accountability is a big, big focus, because everyone does expect, results, right? So when we're talking about the systems, the structure, breaking down the goals, tracking, measuring, is every is every part of that system, does everyone know what they're actually accountable for? Is it just generic and saying, oh, we got to reach this goal? Well, then that doesn't give me a lot of tangible things to discuss or to hold on to or to manipulate. So accountability could also be broken down into specific individuals or teams or departments, specific behaviors, specific aspects to adjust. So really breaking down your system to where it's so tangible and clear, so that accountability, the aspects of accountability kind of, diminish into a couple of core actions or aspects that you're looking at, not just broad. Because if it's too broad, you don't know what you can actually control and measure. But if you get specific actions that support that larger goal, you can then hold accountability without the emotional side of things. Because the other part, especially in dental teams, we want everyone to be more accountable, but it does seem more subjective and less objective. So be aware of that. Are you holding someone accountable in a subjective manner? Because then your emotions do take over. People get defensive. They get, their pride comes up. They get upset. And then that's when things kind of spiral out of control. But if you are accountable in an objective way, where there are tangibles and specifics that you can discuss and manipulate, it's less about the subjective opinions and more about the objective tangibles.
I love that. I hate generalizations. I think you need to be really clear on who's accountable for what, so that there isn't any Oh, I thought she was going to do it. Oh, I thought you were going to do it. That kind of back and forth, because that can definitely bring out a lot of emotions in a team.
Of course. And I'll just add, just building out a thorough plan allows you to be that much more effective. It allows room for improvement and adjustment. It limits the variables that will derail the system and the goal. And it keeps everyone on the same page. So I do think it saves time in the long run if you spend more time up front really formulating the plan with all of those aspects that we're talking about. There's less room for error as you implement everything.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. I'd like to have our listeners get a hold of you if they have any questions after the show. So how would they get a hold of you if they want to talk more about this?
Yeah, this is really exciting. So again, thank you, Christine. So my website has a lot of information. I have a lot of free resources and tools and different things that you can take a look at. So my website is ascendpropathways.com. My LinkedIn is also quite active. You can message me on LinkedIn. I'm sure you can include it in the notes here, but you can message me on my website or through LinkedIn, and I'm very responsive and would love to speak more about this, about mindset, getting out of your own way, solidifying goals, finding objective ways to move forward. This stuff is really, really exciting. So thank you so much.
Thanks again for being on today.
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you for listening to the DSO Hygienist podcast. Please follow or subscribe to be alerted of new episodes.